welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. And on this episode, I should say, not episodes. But anyway, on this episode, I brought in someone that Titans fans will actually, probably remember when he was playing running back for the Tennessee Titans. That would be Mr. Bishop Sankey. What's going on, man?
What's going on, Mike? Appreciate you for having me on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we're going to talk about your journey to the NFL and what you're doing now. We're going to get to that just a little bit later in the show. But up first, like I always start the show, is to get it off your chest segment. It could be about anything in sports. It could be something outside of sports. But this time, we're going to keep it in the AFC South. And we're going to talk about time. Time is something that everyone thinks they have, and some people don't have it all, or they'll get that opportunity. And that's something that's going to be there when it comes to CJ Stroud, when it comes to the Houston Texans. More than likely, he's going to be the starting quarterback. More than likely, he's going to have a lot put on his shoulders. And more than likely, he's not going to have a ton of weapons he's working with on offense to start. So he could potentially have a slow start to his career, which is going to bring a lot of people out saying, oh, he's not ready. He's not this. He's not that. Those things are going to happen. But what I want to give everyone, just give everyone a little bit, pump the brakes just a little bit. Give him time to develop. Not every player is going to jump in and just start off top and be like, boom, he's it. He's the guy. It doesn't happen that way all the time. Some players need time. Some players need development. Some players need more of those repetition and things like that. And I just hope that everyone understands that CJ Stroud is a talented quarterback, but he may not be on the schedule of everyone else and all the other rookies that jumped in there and just did their thing and, took off from there. So give him time, give him some weapons, and hopefully an offensive line that can protect him. And maybe you will see the guy that everyone sees in terms of, being the most talented quarterback in this draft, in my opinion. So everyone pump the brakes, relax, let CJ Stroud develop and be who he is and go from there. Did you have any thoughts on, development and time with CJ Stroud, Bishop?
Oh yeah, I can just speak. I think time, like you said, it's important. With the NFL, a lot of times they want guys to come in and be unbelievable right off the bat, and then that's just kind of the standard that's set as in the NFL and what's expected. But I think, like you said earlier, just surrounding him with the right group of guys, a good offensive line, good receivers. And really, it's a team sport, so no guy can do it alone. So I think, you want him to come in and develop, and the quicker the better. But realistically, you have to have other parts in place to allow him to be a great player or to make his transition easier into the league.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so practice patience, Texans fans. I know you want to win. I know it's been a rough last couple of years, but it's going to be all right. Just let him develop and do his thing, and you never know. You might have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in like 5 years, potentially. So,
oh yeah, I think what he did in college was crazy. Just seeing the plays he was able to make. So he has it in the arsenal. It's just one of those things. I'm excited to see how he develops as a pro. So, yeah, I'm excited.
It's definitely going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting for sure, and especially in the AFC South, which you know a lot about since that's where you played with Tennessee Titans. We're going to get into that. Yeah. But, of course, I got to get to the start of the dream, or the start of the drive towards the NFL, we should say. And that's you growing up. Of course, you grew up. I kind of did my research a little bit. You grew up a little bit partially in Ohio. I said partially because, I looked up you moved to Washington at some point in time. So how was it growing up in both places?
Man, growing up in Ohio, it's a big football state. Football is everything. A lot of Ohio State fans there. And so I grew up as a little kid, with my grandparents till I was like the age of 7, 8. And then I moved with my dad, who was a sergeant in the Air Force at the time. And he's who really introduced me to the game of football. I remember in second grade, going out there on the field, and he was an assistant coach. And we would do things like, drills and stuff in the backyard, just preparing me to play in the games. And my first game, it was actually rough. My first Little League game, I still remember it. But just with work, hard work and the support that he gave me, I was able to get my start as a player, playing growing up in Ohio. And then once I got to 8th grade, he was transferred to Washington State. That's where I played high school ball at. So I played high school ball in Spokane, Washington, at Gonzaga Prep High School. And at my time there, I got recruited to Washington, University of Washington, and that's where I ended up playing college ball at. But I mean, growing up, both states, Ohio definitely is a big football state. Washington, it's a Pac-12 country, so not a lot of people may be familiar with it on this side of the country, but there's some good football out there as well. So,
Gotcha. Now, I know people say they have dreams of wanting to play football and be an NFL star and things like that, but I'm not going to assume you did. I'm going to assume you may have had something else you thought of. So, what was your original thing you wanted to be before you wanted to be a football player?
To be honest, Mike, my original dream was to be a professional athlete. I grew up as an athlete as a kid. I played, baseball, football, soccer, track. I mean, whatever season it was in, that was what my favorite sport was at the time as a kid. And I started playing football, realized I was good at it. That became my best sport and my favorite sport. And as time went on, especially once I got to high school and started attending camps, that was like my dream up until I made it into the NFL. That was like my primary dream. Just being, you watch guys on TV all the time, big time running backs. I grew up watching, like Maurice Claret and Beanie Wells, all those guys that played for Ohio State, as a kid. And those are guys that I aspired to be like. And so that was really like my childhood dream was playing football at the professional level.
Right. Okay. So when did you officially kind of decide? You officially decided pretty young that you kind of wanted to be a football player and things like that. So University of Washington. Now, we're going to get into that and talk about the University of Washington because it definitely was a good story in terms of how you became the guy at the University of Washington. But we're going to get into that in a moment. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back on Torn AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business. All right, and we are back. And before the break, we were going to get into the UW days, Washington. So I've got to ask, what colleges did you have to pick from in terms of, where you were going to go and play college football? Because I know you were a 4-star running back coming out of high school, correct?
Yes, correct. So I had about 10 offers coming out. I had a University of Washington, Washington State, Minnesota, Vanderbilt, Maryland, I think Army, Hawaii, and how many is that? 8? I don't know. I feel like I want to say around 10 offers. So, but my top offers that I were considering up until the last point was University of Washington and Washington State. Those were the top 2 schools that I considered. And mainly, I was playing football at Gonzaga Prep and Washington State. They were my first offer. They offered me my sophomore year at a camp. And, I kind of jumped the gun early in the recruiting cycle and committed. And, as soon as I committed, all these other schools started showing interest. And, I had a relationship with the running back coach there at the time. at Washington State, but he ended up leaving and going to UCLA. And then a new running back coach came in um, at Washington State, and I just didn't really have the same relationship as I did with the previous running back coach. And at the same time, Washington was still recruiting. The running back coach at Washington, they were at my school, every week, multiple times a week, knocking on the door, coming to say what's up. And I just had built that relationship up through time with the running back coach at the University of Washington. And, that was a big reason why I ended up, committing to the University of Washington and signing my letter of intent with UW.
Okay. All right. All right. So, how was it when you first arrived on campus? You're officially a college football player. What was that feeling, and what was the feeling on campus?
It was great. I mean, it was something that I dreamed of. Every kid I think dreams of playing Division I football at one point in time growing up, and so it was a great experience. First getting on campus, I just wanted to get there and show what I could do. My freshman year, I didn't really play that much. I played on special teams, rarely. And really, I was like fourth string, probably like fourth string when I first got there. We had some other guys, Chris Polk, who played in the NFL for like 5-6 years. He was the starter. He was a senior then when I first got there. We had this other guy, Deontay Cooper, he was probably honestly the most talented guy in the room at the time. That guy tore his ACL like 3 times and still ran like a 4.3 40. And so that's just how talented he was. He was actually challenging Chris Polk for his starting role as a freshman before he got injured. And then we had another guy, Jesse Calder. He was there as well. And so really my freshman year, I didn't play too much. I would get called in every now and then off the sideline, get like one carry and get called right back out because Chris Polk was the guy. He was getting, 20, 25 carries a game. And really my second year, my sophomore year, Chris Polk left and went to the NFL. And then it was between me and Jesse, this other guy. He was a year older than me. He had more game experience than I did, but he ended up tearing his ACL as well. And then Deontay was still coming back from an ACL injury, so the starting role just kind of fell. I was kind of thrown into the fire my sophomore season, and that's kind of how that started at UW.
Now, not only did you jump into the starting role, but you flourished in the starting role so much that NFL scouts are looking at you. People are like, okay, cool, this guy can play in the NFL. He can do a lot of things. So when did you kind of start feeling that, hey, I could take this to the next level and be a guy that could play in the NFL?
I really thought like my sophomore year, I had a game against Stanford. We played them like the 4th game of the season, and that was kind of my breakout game. It was like, I think they were ranked 8 in the country when we played them, and they came to our home and we played against them, and it was like 4th and 1. It was like third quarter, 4th and 1, and I broke like a 67-yarder, and then that was the first kind of like spark that I had as a college player that really gave me that confidence to know that I can compete at this level. And that's really what like tipped it off. But I think after my sophomore year, I had a good sophomore year. Then I came back my junior year and had an even better junior year. Like, I think that's what really, enabled me to believe that, hey, I can do this. I can go to the next level and play at the NFL level.
Okay. All right. All right. So, so you go into the draft, 2014 draft. You are selected in the second round by the Tennessee Titans. Can you kind of take us to that draft night that kind of led up to that draft pick? The call, the environment, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great night. Actually, I was at my dad's house. My dad was stationed in California at the time, and so I was down there. And family flew out from Ohio. Family came from all over, and we were just at this like pavilion at this park near my dad's place. And it was just a great time. I had family out there to celebrate, some old coaches out there, little brothers and sisters. It was just, all around good time. I honestly, I couldn't believe it because it was like, that's what you think about and dream about up until that point. And it's like, wow, this is really like a reality. Like, and so it just meant a lot to me. And as well as, it meant a lot to my family too. So I was really just excited and, ready for what was next. So.
Mm-hmm. So as far as the call, can you kind of take us through the actual call when it happened and kind of
Yeah,
the
so
feelings at that point?
yeah, I was walking. I think I was like walking from the bathroom or something, and I got a call from Coach Wizenhunt, and I was just like, man, this. And I like it was a Tennessee number, and I answered it, and then he kind of just like, hey, we want to draft you in this next pick. We want to draft you. I'll get you on the phone with the running back coach, and have you talk to him. And it was kind of just one of those things like we're excited to draft you, but we want you to get here and just get acclimated to everything and get acclimated to the preseason. And I kind of was. It was like I ain't gonna say it was like an out of body experience, but it kind of just it didn't feel real at the time because I was just like it just everything was happening so quick. Like you get drafted and you're just like okay, like when do I fly there? When do I have to leave my fam? Because everybody's here having a good time, enjoying the draft, and it's just like you're just trying to anticipate like what to expect next. And I think that was the biggest thing. But once I got off the phone, I still stayed with my family the rest of that night, and we just hung out and had a good time and had fun. So yeah, overall it was a great experience, and it was really a blessing for me because that was something that I've dreamt of since I was 7, 8 years old. So it was exciting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So kind of take us through when you first got there. You show up at the Tennessee Titans camp. You're prepared. You're ready. You're excited. You've reached one of your dreams. And kind of how was it? Kind of getting acclimated, first stepping on that field, and actually participating and doing a few things as a member of the Tennessee Titans.
When I first got there, it went well. It's a lot hotter than Seattle. It was like probably about 100 degrees. We got there. I think I started like in May or June for OTAs. Man, it was about 100 degrees, humidity, and it was cool though. Just getting acclimated, meeting the guys, and getting prepared. Like it was a high expectations. I think I came there right after Chris Johnson left. He was like the 2,000-yard rusher the year before, so there's just a lot of high expectations and really just a period of adjustment. Trying to get adjusted as a young rookie, learning a playbook. That was the biggest thing. Learning a whole new playbook and just getting used to that level of football, like that, the speed, the maturity of the guys, and just really all aspects. It's just one of those things I was just trying to lock in every day and get acclimated to.
Okay. All right. So, as far as your time with the Titans, I gotta ask, of course, those expectations. You mentioned, the expectations and things like that. Chris Johnson being a running back before you there. How did you kind of deal with some of those expectations that were there when you being one of the top picks for the Titans that year? How did you deal with those expectations?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. To be honest, it was tough. It was a growing experience, really. Just trying to deal with the expectations and just going through training camp and the season. And to be honest, that first year, we weren't good. We had Coach Wizenhunt and the rest of the team. We just weren't a good team overall. Offensively, we couldn't execute and get the ball rolling. We had some injuries down the stretch. On the offensive line that hurt us as well. And I think that year we were doing like a running back by committee. So we had about, 4 or 5 guys rotating, carrying the rock. And, sometimes the guy who had the most touches only may have had like 5 or 6 touches that game. And by the time, halftime came around, we were in a lot of situations where we were forced to throw the ball and really come from behind. So it was just a lot, dealing with that, as a rookie, trying to figure out, trying to gain that confidence like I did at Washington. I think every running back kind of looks for their breakout game. And it was just one of those things it was hard it didn't happen because we couldn't really execute as an offense and we were struggling that whole year. So, I mean, yeah, it was definitely a growing experience though, learning to still move forward through adversity and through like just that roller coaster of a season. So yeah, I think it made me more equipped for just life in general. What I'm doing now, and just that wasn't the first time I faced adversity. It wouldn't be the last time. So I just think, in essence, it was a challenging experience, but it was a blessing in disguise as well.
Gotcha. So, kind of getting to it. Unfortunately, you were released after a couple years here at the Titans, and what was the feeling when that actually, or what was the, what kind of was going through your mind when you got that call or that they brought you in the office? I don't know if they brought you in the office or gave you a call, but
Yeah. No, they were
what was
actually
the
they spared me a little bit because it was in the morning time before, it wasn't like I didn't get cut during practice or like right after practice or when everyone was in the building. It was like I think after the last preseason game, like before everyone got there, and it was just like it was like early in the morning before anyone got there. So I was like, dang, at least I'm getting cut, but ain't nobody, it's not like the whole like I know guys that have got pulled out of the cafeteria and have been released and stuff. So it was definitely, I mean, it was a tough experience, just being released. Um, and also I was, dealing with like a high ankle sprain that I kind of swept under the rug at that time. Um, and I kept it under the rug because I wasn't looking back. I wasn't sure if I would have said something, if it would have hindered other teams from wanting to take a chance on me and pick me up. But looking back, I should have just said something and maybe have had some more time to recover before being released. Possibly with on IR through on IR. So really that third year I kind of bounced around. Like after that, I kind of bounced around different teams. Trying to work through this sprained ankle. And then, so I was on I went from the Titans, then I was with I was with the Patriots on practice squad for like 7-8 weeks. Then I got called up to the Kansas City Chiefs had a cup of coffee there. I was there for about 3 weeks and then ended the season with the Minnesota Vikings. And I was with them for the last like month or so of that 2016 season. And then I did well there. They called me back for that next year. Then I ended up, did well in the off season there during preseason. Had a legitimate chance to make the roster. They drafted Dalvin Cook that year. They also they brought in Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon, who I think is still playing. So it was a full room, but I had a chance to be like a third or fourth guy and make that roster with the Vikings, but I ended up tearing my ACL in the preseason, so it was just bad timing overall with that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that first cut, it doesn't get any easier. Like being released, every time you get released, it's just like, all right, just call your agent and hope for the best. You're on the phone with your agent, just trying to see like what are the options, what's next, and so that's kind of where I was, after I was released with the Titans. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah, definitely not necessarily the way, things wanted you wanted things to end, of course, obviously with the Titans, but I definitely can remember that time because of course I was living here in Nashville when you got drafted. And I definitely remember Ken Whisenhunt and people kind of saying, I don't know, and is he the guy, stuff like that. And then people I remember talking about you, and I actually was a fan, and I was like, man, hey, he's solid. He can play. He can do a few things. He can make some things happen. And it kind of threw me off when you got cut when that actually at that point in time, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it was a combination of things. Like I said, we just weren't really good overall as a team. Our coach got fired, and then Malarkey was there, and I wasn't necessarily the type of running back that he preferred. I think Malarkey previously was with the Falcons, and he kind of like those downhill power type backs. I was more like a tweener, scat back type. I was about 5'10", 207, 208, so I wasn't really the biggest guy. Wasn't like a power downhill runner. So, so yeah, I saw less playing time my second year, and then the third preseason, I feel like I did well with my touches. I didn't get many touches my third preseason, but I think that was the strongest I felt up until that point. I had put on pounds because they wanted me to gain weight. So I was about my third year coming into the preseason, I was about 220. I was like sitting at 220, but I felt strong. Like I had put in a lot of work, got stronger, lower body, my squatting, hitting PRs in my squats, my power cleans, and but unfortunately, yeah, they saw fit to go another direction. Obviously, they drafted Derrick Henry, and they brought in DeMarcus Murray. So those are two powerhouse running backs, and I think they kept Antonio Andrews. So it was just one of those things. With the new GM, new coaching staff, I ended up getting released.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it did happen. But
Yeah.
I will say it kind of got you started on your next career. We're going to talk about what your next career is and what you've been doing since that time. And when we come back from commercial on Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton.
You ever missed your mom's home cooked meals? Well, you're not always able to get to those, but you are able to get to H&T's Home Cooking. Established in 2005, Patty Palin and her staff go out 6 days a week to create some of the best home-style meals you can taste and at a fair price. So if you're in Nashville and you like chicken and dressings, green beans, macaroni and cheese, and other things, stop by H&T's Home Cooking. Their address is 2264 Murfreesboro Pike, Nashville, Tennessee 37217. And they are open Monday through Thursday and Sunday 11 to 6:30 and Friday 11 to 7. And if you want to order online, of course, the option is available as well at hthomecooking.com, or you can call 615-367-0049. H&T's Home Cooking, food for your soul.
All right, and we are back from commercial break. Like we were saying at the end of the commercial break, well, going into the commercial break, that you transitioned and started your new career, your new journey. So for those that don't know, of course, I'm going to ask first, how was the transition from life to life after football first for you?
It was sort of like a slow, ongoing transition, kind of just, I guess, happened piece by piece. So when I was with the Vikings, I tore my ACL. That was in my 4th year. So I was on IR that whole year. And then after that, they ended up releasing me that spring following, I want to say 2018, like spring of 2018. And so I was still rehabbing my ACL after they released me. And at that point, I really wasn't sure about my football, my future in football, just given how things had went up to that point. And I knew like the shelf life for running backs wasn't long typically. So I began, trying to prepare and think about, life after football, or just setting myself up so when the time did come, I would be able to transition as smoothly as possible. So I ended up doing like a off-season internship before my 2017 season at the University of Maryland in like sports administration, because I knew I always wanted to work in sports, like regardless of how long I played. I wanted to still either coach or do like sports administration or something along those lines. And so I ended up, after 2018, when I got released, I ended up finishing school, and then I was still rehabbing, still training, hitting my agent up every couple of weeks, and like is anything coming along. And really the only opportunity I got was to play in the AAF, which I don't know if y'all are familiar, but it was like a startup league similar to the XFL, some of the other startup leagues.
My cousin played in it. My cousin he played for the Birmingham team, Quentin Patton.
Yeah. Okay,
that's
yeah. Okay, that's what's up. Yeah, yeah. So my quarterback played, I think, with the Birmingham team as well that year, but it didn't even last like a whole whole season because they had some issues or whatever with the league, and so they ended up discontinuing the league. I want to say like week 7 or 8. And so yeah, we all got sent home. We had to be out of the hotel within like a week, and so yeah, that was after that. I was still like, okay, well, I still had some issues with my ACL during that season, and I was still working through some injuries. So I ended up after that, I graduated in 2018. In the midst of all this, I graduated. Then I ended up playing in the AAF, and then I was still training and trying to figure out what was next. So I want to say I ended up. Oh, so I actually applied. Okay, so I ended up applying to law school during that time, because after the AAF was over, I was like, man, I don't really know what's next with football. So I was like, man, let me just apply to law school, see what happens. So I actually got accepted into a law school, and I actually was about to go there. I did like orientation just to get it, see what it was like. But really literally the first day before classes, my agent hit me up and he was like, hey, you're on a Indianapolis Colts short list, like, would you be ready for a workout? And I was just like, man, like that kind of caught me off guard because I hadn't heard anything about any opportunities within the last 5 months. So they hit me up and I was like, okay. So to me, that was a sign, I was like, man, the first chance I had, it wasn't just like any team, it was the NFL team. So I was just like, man, I may have to like, football still may be on the table. Some opportunities may still be on the table with football. And so I actually ended up not going to that law school that I planned on going to first. And so I was like, man, I'm about to just, get back right. Because if I was thinking like if the Colts were interested, possibly, other teams in the league were interested in bringing me in for a workout. So I just went back to football and, I didn't really allow myself enough time to miss the game. So when I got that text from my agent, I was just like, oh yeah, I got to, go back to football and just train. And so I did. I just trained my butt off for the next few months in hopes to get an opportunity to come work out for a team. And nothing really came until the end of that 2019 season. I played in the CFL. The Toronto Argonauts, they brought me in for the last few years or last few weeks of the season. I think it was like 2 weeks left in the season. And then once the 2019 season ended, they brought me back for 2020, but obviously, we all know what happened in 2020. So right. They ended up canceling the league for that year because the restrictions were tighter in Canada. But yeah, that offseason, man, I was training, man. I was probably in the best shape of my career. I was like, this is the comeback year. This is where I'm have a chance to show what I can do at the CFL level with the idea of getting another opportunity in the league if I balled out in the CFL. That was my whole reason for going to Toronto. And the season was canceled in 2020, but in lieu of the season, I had an opportunity to intern at the NFLPA. So it was just a lot going on at the time. When the season was canceled, I was like, now what? I don't really have anything to do now. I was trying to figure out what the next step was, and I had received an email from the NFL Players Association about like a former players internship. And so I just applied to it and, applied and I was like, cause I wanted to work in sports. I know I always wanted to work in sports. And so I applied and I was able to do the internship mostly in like player affairs. So I was doing a lot of outreach and follow up and educating current players on their, like benefits and different internship opportunities and continuing education opportunities that they had available to them in the off season. And, I had a chance to like kind of maneuver around the NFLPA. I sat in with the licensing team and saw like companies and who are looking to use players like NIL for promotions and endorsements and stuff. So that was really my first time being introduced to like the business side of football and be that close in the mix with like the business side. So this whole time I was still signed to the CFL team because they didn't release me. It was just so like the season was canceled, but I was still signed to the CFL team. And so like I do the whole internship and 2021 comes around and they still said that like up there they had the season wasn't canceled, but it was postponed. So at that time I was like, man, it was like 2020 all over again. And I hadn't heard anything from any other league. So I was just like, at that time, it just made sense to officially, retire from football, given my age and position and everything. And I hadn't played in the game in a while. So it just made sense to officially retire. And I just ended up finishing out my internship at the NFLPA. And I think I finished that like late 2021. So yeah, it was just a lot going on, man. It was crazy. It was a crazy time with like COVID and everything and leagues being shut down. But yeah, I just think one thing I learned through that whole that time was just like, I just think adversity happens, but there's always, rooms for opportunity and growth during like adverse times. And I think that's something that I really saw happen with the other opportunities that came, like the NFLPA internship and other things going on. So.
Right. So now, if you want to pivot back kind of to this law school, now, did you ever pursue that anymore? Or are you pursuing that now, or are you doing something different?
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember the timeline because, like I said, there's a lot going on. But yeah, I ended up So I did the NFLPA internship. That ended in 2021. After that ended, it was just like because it was an internship. It was only for like I think a year or 11 months. So after that ended, I worked for this startup company called Atavis. They did it was like a tech company that worked on quantifying tackling. So they literally, all I was doing was watching film, breaking down defensive film, and their whole thing was trying to make the game safer through implementing fundamentally sound tackling. Like they wanted guys to tackle in a safe way, but an effective way. So I would really watch defensive film and break down film, watch guys like pursue angles, watch their tackling technique, and just how they got off blocks and stuff. And so I was like, man, I'm doing all this, I was doing it online. And my dad's a coach. My dad coaches like high school football, and he's been coaching for a while. And so I was like, man, I'm doing all this film breakdown and analysis. I might as well like try to coach. That was like my other thing. I was like, I'm open to coaching too. Like it's just hard to get opportunities, especially at the college level. And so I started reaching out to people. I reached out to an old coach, and I reached out to a number of people, a number of guys. But one of my old coaches hit me up, and he said like one of their guys left. He was a quality control guy at Rice. And so he was like, it was like halfway during the season. And he's like, do you want to come down and help out for the rest of the season, see how it goes? I was like, yeah, why not? So I came down there and I was doing quality control for half of the year. And towards that 2021 football season, I was down there coaching. And so that I did the coaching thing at Rice. Then that ended, and I was like, I like coaching, but I was really more interested in sort of like the front office, sports administration / scouting side. So after Rice, I ended up there was another time period after the season in 2021. So about 3 months had passed of me doing nothing again, trying to figure out, what was next. And so during that time, I actually ended up reapplying to law school in early 2022 because that still was like kind of in the back of my head. I felt like that could be beneficial to what I was trying to do. So I ended up reapplying to law school. And then I actually applied to this scouting internship. It was like a Nunn-Wooten scouting internship during 2022 because I wasn't sure if I was even going to get accepted into law school again and all that. And just so many things were up in the air. So I applied to this Nunn-Wooten scouting fellowship and was able, my agent had a relationship with this guy, Ryan Cowden. He's the assistant GM with the Giants now, but he was VP of personnel with the Titans for a while. And so they decided to bring me in for that summer 2022. And that was a great opportunity because I really learned like the scouting side and just I was basically doing what I had been doing for the past 6 months, which was, breaking down film, evaluating guys, still connected to football in some way. And I actually felt really comfortable in the scouting room, like being able to watch film, and you still have to know football and like know the X's and O's and be able to evaluate players. But I also feel like you can do other things like, learn about contracts and, salary cap and all those. They had those other elements to it as well that attracted me to scouting. It's like, to me, it just seemed like a perfect middle ground between like coaching and front office. So I did the scouting thing. I felt comfortable. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed my internship scouting, but I ended up getting accepted into law school. And I was under the impression that the scouting internship was only for training camp. And so after training camp ended, they said they wanted to bring me on for like a year. It was like a 1-year internship with a contingent second year. And so, but I had been accepted into law school, so I was still like, it was just a tough decision I had to make. And so I decided to just do the law school thing. And if it was meant to be, maybe it was a scouting opportunity would come back around when I was finished with school. And so, yeah, that's kind of like how I decided on pursuing law school again. Was I was out of a job. I didn't know what I was going to do next. And I felt like a law degree would help set me up to work in, sports management or scouting.
Okay. All right. So
I know that was long-winded. I'm just trying to like
definitely an interesting journey. I don't know.
Yeah. I know that was long-winded. I was just it was just so many moving parts were going on after 2020 hit, and then trying to transition out of the league. But I guess my whole mentality behind it was, just try to find the good in all, even if it's a bad situation, just try to look for the good in all the situations, and just try to see like, what could I be doing right now to get better, or set myself up for, what my goals and dreams, and things I want to do down the line. So that was kind of my main mindset, was like, even though these other things were being taken away or it ended, there were still other opportunities that were potentially available. And, as a former player, like, I've just always tried to take advantage of all these things that they provide to former players, like the opportunities through the NFLPA and like internship opportunities. And I think, more players should try to take advantage of that, because they're really there to help guys like me transition from playing to their second careers. And it's not just opportunities in sports, but there's opportunities in, other fields as well, other areas. Some guys, not everybody wants to still work in sports when they're done playing. But I think that's one thing that I try to just, just like remind myself is, okay, there's going to be other opportunities down the line that you can take advantage of.
Right. So, we kind of went through your entire journey from growing up in Ohio and then in the state of Washington to officially deciding you want to be a football player, to the Titans years. Oh, sorry. Got to remember the UW years. Sorry. The UW years, then the Titans years, and then, life after football. But, we're going to get a little bit more in depth with you. And that's in the game portion of the show. We got 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. People are going to find out a little bit more about you in this one. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. We're going to go with food choices, man. We're going to go with flats and wings, man. Flats or drums?
I do flats.
All right, cool. You might hate some folks there, but it's all right, though. All right. Vision or agility? Which one would you say is more important for a running back?
Vision. I say vision.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Derrick Henry or Jonathan Taylor? Which running back would you take if you had to choose?
Oh man, that's crazy. I say Derrick Henry.
Okay. All right. Better college rivalry: UT versus Florida or Washington versus Washington State?
Washington versus Washington State. I got to go with that. The Apple Cup it's crazy. I'd experienced that firsthand, so I got to go with that. That's a good rivalry right there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I got your last one. I'm gonna get you the hip hop arena. If you got to pick one artist, one song, J. Cole or Kendrick Lamar?
I'm going with Cole. Jermaine Cole, J. Cole. I'm going with Cole, man. I like Kendrick. But I just feel like J. Cole's like he's like my favorite rapper, honestly. He's like, because I feel like no one's been as consistent as he has. Like he's been so good for so long, and he drops consistently. Like I don't think he's really taken a long break off. Like, I mean, I know Kendrick's taken a break, but he's just been like, Cole has just been dropping like at least every year, every couple of years. So I got to go with Cole, J. Cole.
Okay. All right. So 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. You're all wrapped up. By the way, in the Touring the AFC South inbox, we had Danny Thompson, and he said that you were one of his favorite running backs, favorite college running backs, actually.
Oh man, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Shouts out to him for the compliment. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I still remember you at the University of Washington. I was like, man, this guy's tough. I used to stay up watching those games, so I was like, geez, this guy does everything.
Yeah, they be late night. I feel like most of our games was at like 7:30, or if not later. So yeah, it was a good experience though. I enjoyed playing college, and I enjoyed playing pro too. Even though it was a lot of moving parts, throughout my career, I bounced around a lot. But I'm thankful for the whole experience. And I feel like it's without football, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. It's helped set me up for post-career stuff. And like, even now I have a legal internship right now with the Jaguars, and I got that through one of those job fairs for former players. And that's something that it was like a job fair, and I ended up getting selected. It was like I interviewed with like 12 companies, and they were like the last company. There was a few teams, but mostly like other companies. They're the last team I interviewed with. And I didn't even think the interview went that great, but they ended up bringing me on. And so I'm doing that right now with the legal on the legal side. So it's just an ongoing thing. I'm trying to stay in sports as long as I can. If I can help it, I would love to continue working in sports, on the legal side or the scouting side. And I think I can just bring value as a former player and someone who's just passionate about sports in general. I've seen you at symposiums and different conferences and stuff, and I just think, for me, just like I couldn't really envision myself doing anything different as of right now. So as long as I can stay connected to sports, I'm gonna try to stay connected to sports either at the college level or pro level. So.
Okay, well, just you're down there, former Titan in Jaguar country, man. So I guess don't tell too many folks that you used to play for the Titans, man. Don't do that down there.
I mean, it's actually I'm working remote right now, so I'm doing remote.
Okay.
But I think I'm gonna go visit the. I'm in Knoxville right now, so
okay.
I think I'm gonna end up mostly remote, but yeah.
All right. If you would tell everybody where they can find you on social media as well. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So you can find me on Twitter at Bishop Sankey. You can find me on Instagram at Bishop Sankey. Those are really the only two social medias I'm active on. And just follow me. Appreciate the support, and I appreciate y'all for tuning in and listening to my journey.
Yeah. Definitely was a pleasure listening to your journey. I kind of teased this a while back. I was like, I'm going to bring on a former Titans running back, and everybody was guessing, trying to figure out who I was going to bring on. I was like, I told them it was you. They was like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember him. I'm getting all the stories of people talking about, I remember him when he played for the Titans, and and then play for UW. I'm like, I remember him too.
Yeah, appreciate you, man.
Hopefully everyone,
appreciate y'all. Maybe off camera. I mean, I could try to connect you with some other former guys too, if you'd be interested in bringing them on as well. They can talk about their
for sure
too. But
for sure, we can definitely do that. I'll reach out to you through Instagram if cool. That's cool with you. But thank you for coming on. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Of course, you can find Touring the AFC South on every listening platform. That'd be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to a podcast, you can find it there. You can also find us on YouTube. See, waving right there. But thank you all again. Of course, you can find me on Twitter at MikePatton82. That's MikePatton 82. And you can find me on Instagram at that's THA, not THE, _general_MP. Thank you all for tuning in to Touring the AFC South. I'm your host, Mike Patton. We're out.